Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming. DICE is finally taking the competitive Battlefield scene seriously. They have announced Incursions, a competitive game mode for Battlefield 1 that features 5 vs 5 combat on a modified version of existing maps. The class selection is limited to 8 kits, each with a specific focus and limited weapon options. These kits represent the variety we have in Battlefield 1's regular mode, just balanced for small-scale combat. Vehicles will be available for both teams, but they'll also be tweaked to fit the game mode. A closed alpha is set to begin sometime in September. The first map available will be a version of Giant's Shadow. The game mode available is based on Conquest with some different scoring and capture mechanics. Incursions will feature a unique progression system with 3 ranks, presumably for each kit. As you level up, you unlock new abilities and upgrades for your kit. On the official subreddit for Incursions, DICE has confirmed any key improvements made to support Incursions, like improved server systems or physics, will be carried over to the base game. With the new Battlefield game on the horizon next year, it's unclear what role Battlefield 1 Incursions will fill going forward. Based on what DICE is saying, it seems like this is just the starting point for Battlefield's competitive focus. The Battlefield community has been heavily divided with BF1. How will DICE reconcile the more casual feel of Battlefield 1 with the need for a high skill ceiling and deeper progression system? Incursion sounds like a step in the right direction, but class and game mode changes aren't the only thing Battlefield 1 needs to feel like a rich competitive experience. If you want full details, including my thoughts on Incursions, be sure to check out my video that I created earlier this week with more information. As for Battlefield 1 content you can get your hands on now, DICE has released a new map on the CTE. Sartsin, or however you pronounce the name of this map, is a 3-point conquest map with a church at the center. That church serves as a central capture point and is surrounded by an open field of trenches. Buildings serve as cover for both teams on the outskirts of the map and as the starting capture points. Overall, the community finds the map relatively unbalanced in its current state. Once a team has captured the central point, it's pretty much over for the other team. This seems due to a variety of smaller issues, cover being the biggest one. DICE has a survey going around and is taking feedback on the CTE subreddit. So far, they haven't said much regarding the future of the map. Hopefully, they give it a proper balancing pass before it releases with the SAR expansion. For players still on the fence about Battlefield 1's DLC, you'll be happy to hear that EA have released a Revolution edition of Battlefield 1 that includes premium for $60 total. The base game is now priced at $40, with premium available at a reduced price of $30. Lupkow Pass, another map from the ZAR DLC, has been released for premium players in its final form. The new map was added alongside a patch with plenty of minor tweaks and fixes. A link to the full patch notes is in the description below. A work-in-progress screenshot of PUBG's new desert map has been released. It looks like the map features much more dense urban combat than the current map. The screenshot was revealed as part of Bluehole's presentation at Gamescom. They also hosted an invitational event at Gamescom with cash prizes for the winners. How some of those winners are being decided has been a huge point of contention for the community. It seems like the rules and point system for the event heavily favor just staying alive over actually getting kills, which can lead to some rather unentertaining gameplay at certain times during the match. Again, I did a video talking about the new map and my feelings on the competition that you can check out in the video description. Bluehole also showed off new terrain improvements for PUBG that adds depth to the ground textures with a common rendering technology called tessellation. It's nothing new in terms of technology, but certainly a welcome improvement for PUBG. There's no release date yet for the new feature. HBAO Plus has also been revealed, showing off improved lighting and shading for PUBG. This is not a new rendering technology by any means and has been in the gaming world for quite some time, but having it as a new addition for PUBG is welcome, although generally for every other game out there, it also comes with some performance impacts, and I don't know how many players are going to be willing to take a performance hit for the added visual quality. Players with the NVIDIA GPUs can now automatically record their PUBG highlights by turning on the Shadowplay Highlights feature in-game and having GeForce Experienced installed. This is a really cool concept and a feature that makes sharing kills and wins much easier for the average player. Once enabled, it records moments before and after kills and automatically records your wins. Players can then share those clips to YouTube or Facebook with a single click. The Call of Duty World War II beta is now live on PlayStation 4. It'll be available on Xbox One next week, with PC following sometime later. The initial response of the gameplay is somewhat mixed. Overall, it sounds like players are generally happy with the map design, but a variety of balancing and technical issues still exist. Some big ones are apparently questionable network lag, locked FOV, not enough audio options, motion blur that can't be disabled, and shooting after sprinting taking too long. Another point of concern is the game's class system limiting what perk combinations players have access to. In World War II, players are limited to the perks available for each class, called divisions, so a player that picks one division can't use perks available to a different one. This makes balancing the average perks and classes easier, but breaks from tradition of previous COD titles, which gave all players access to the same perks regardless of their class selection. Destiny 2's PC beta starts on Monday. Bungie released some info regarding known issues, content that will be available, and more ahead of its launch. Players that pre-ordered the game can start playing on Monday, with the beta going public the day after. Known issues include third-party overlays and capture methods being locked, and a lack of multi-GPU support. This will be the first public test of Destiny 2's PC port. We did get hands-on time with the game at a reveal event a few months ago, and the experience was pretty good. But it was also running on high-end PCs, G-Sync monitors, and it was on a local network. Available content will include PvP on 2 maps, the Homecoming story mission, and Inverted Spire Strike. Quake Champions is now in early access. Priced at $30, the arena shooter will eventually be a free-to-play title when it's finished. Players can purchase the title on Steam or through the Bethesda launcher. The latest PTR patch for Overwatch has done a complete overhaul of the game's most popular healer, Mercy. Until now, Mercy's ultimate ability revived all down teammates in a set radius. This has been replaced with a new ultimate ability called Valkyrie. Resurrection is now a standard ability with a cooldown and can only be used on one player at a time. Valkyrie removes that cooldown, gives Mercy's gun unlimited ammo and a damage boost, increases her movement speed, enables full-on flight, and gives her a passive heal that can't be interrupted. Obviously, these changes are just in testing and haven't been implemented into the main game yet. They're certainly disruptive though, especially for competitive players. And speaking of competitive Overwatch, Blizzard is making some changes to the play seasons. Starting with the upcoming Season 6, they will now be 2 months long instead of 3. Total rewards will be less per season, but there will be more seasons overall, so it should balance out. Players will receive more competitive points per win. Control matches will be the best of 3 instead of 5. Players with a diamond or higher rank will only have 5 matches a week to maintain their skill rating. No start date for the next season has been announced. And finally, a new map has been revealed for Overwatch, Junkertown. It supports the esports game mode and is desert themed. No release date was given beyond the coming soon. Rainbow Six Siege's next expansion, Operation Blood Orchid, has been delayed. Originally set to launch on August 29th, the new content has been pushed to September 5th. The expansion will be available on the game's test servers starting on the 29th though. Blood Orchid adds 3 new operators, a new map, along with some key changes from Operation Health being implemented. Changes to the map pools for both casual and ranked games are also being made. Both modes will have a limited pool of maps to play, with a few maps being completely removed from matchmaking. Some of the removed maps will be reworked and brought back in the distant future. The 2 maps confirmed for removal so far are Yacht and Favela. The devs are also removing the map preference system from matchmaking. It was intended to let players select what maps they wanted to play, but it never ended up working. They're exploring different ways of implementing map selection in the future. And finally, this next story is certainly going to perk some ears, or at least some memes, from Half-Life 3 confirmed. Former Valve employee and lead writer for the Half-Life franchise, Mark Laidlaw, has released his vision for Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Episode 3 was originally planned as a follow-up to Episode 2, which was released as an expansion for Half-Life 2 10 years ago. It served as a continuation of the game's story and ended on a cliffhanger. Work on Episode 3 was started immediately after Episode 2's release, but was eventually shelved because its scope expanded beyond the scale of a single DLC release. Since then, there's been tons of leaked information that kind of points in the direction that Valve is still working on something to do with Half-Life 3, but nothing concrete has been officially confirmed. It's hard to say whether or not this Episode 3 plot summary is going to have anything to do with a potential upcoming Half-Life game. Some Valve employees are speculating that the NDA for Episode 3 development recently expired, giving the writer free rein to release his vision for the game. All that said, Valve haven't addressed this plot release yet, and the writer himself referred to the summary as a fan fiction and something Valve might still want to develop, flesh out, and explain someday. If you want to read it, there's a link to the full blog post in the video description. Speaking of cancelled games, Mass Effect Andromeda's single-player support is officially dead. The latest entry in the Mass Effect franchise was heavily criticized and launched with a number of bugs that made the game frustrating to play and visually lacking. Patches have since improved the game in a few key areas, but the fixes are mostly to the graphics and animation bugs. Support for the game's multiplayer will stay alive for some time. Whether this is the end of the Mass Effect franchise isn't really clear. EA is saying that they want to come back to the franchise in the future once the dust from Andromeda's failure has settled, but that could take years. Microsoft have announced over 100 games will be getting Xbox One X enhancements like HDR support and 4K rendering. Key titles include Assassin's Creed Origins, Crackdown 3, Dead Rising 4, Dishonored 2, F1 2017, Fallout 4, Forza Motorsport 7, Gears of War 4, Halo 5, and many more. Initial previews of these games at Gamescom have been very promising. Most supported titles seem to be running at least as well as their standard Xbox One versions, with many seeing better performance and improved resolution. Following the Oculus Rift's massive price reduction, HTC have cut their price for the VIVE VR headset to $600. The $200 price cut makes the premium headset a very attractive system, but still more expensive than the $400 Rift. A second generation of VR gear is clearly on the way next year, with wireless headsets, improved resolutions, and more intuitive controllers. Bethesda has confirmed that Doom, Fallout 4, and Skyrim are all going to have their VR versions released this year. They will serve as the first wave of AAA full-length titles available for VR outside of some exclusives for the Rift and PSVR. New footage of Star Citizen's Alpha 3.0 update premiered at Gamescom. 3.0 will add seamless planetary landings, complete with planet-side bases to explore and vast open worlds to roam. The update is scheduled to launch on September 8th. And finally, to wrap things up, an 8-minute walkthrough of Far Cry 5 was released by Ubisoft to highlight some of the core gameplay that was glossed over at this game's E3 reveal, including drivable tractors and fishing. The look and feel of the game is distinctly Far Cry though. Fans of the franchise won't be disappointed. And that wraps it up for today's episode of This Week in Gaming. Things have been popping off at Gamescom 2017. Hopefully we'll be getting a little bit more information before that event wraps up. As always guys, thanks for watching and I'll catch you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.